NC State family, it's time for an honest look at your sports world. Let's get you hooked up for Pack Therapy, presented by First Horizon Bank. Here are your hosts, Tim Donnelly and Wolfpack football legend Mike Glennon.
Welcome into another edition of the Pack Therapy Podcast. This is what happens when you beat a Power 5 team, State. I scream so much, I yell, I cheer, I get so excited that we're recording this on Thursday after the Saturday game, and my voice is still not all the way back. Luckily, we have Mike Glennon here with us, as always, NC State legend, and he can do a bulk of the talking today, so you don't have to listen to my Doc Rivers voice. We'll start with this. We'll start with, as we always.
I want to start with something.
Okay.
I got a question. I was watching the game. It's 24-23. Cal has a 28-yard field goal, and they miss it. And the first thing that pops in my mind is the email that you got from the Cal guy. Did you get
I did not get a
email?
Follow-up. I should reach back out to him. I should say,
like
a wellness check. How are you doing, bud? That is for those of you that didn't catch the end of the last pod, a Cal fan sent in a hilarious email basically saying, NC State likes to complain about NC State stuff, and you know what I mean by that? Let me tell you what Cal stuff is. And then there was 10,000 words of how tormented the Cal football and basketball programs have been. And let's just say that you missed a 28-yard field goal that probably should have put a team away. I get what you're saying. That's all. And Jaden Ott's not playing after being so hyped coming into the year. I get what you're saying. That is actually hilarious. And I will reach out to him. I'll do like a wellness check. I'll just send are we still alive? Are we still doing okay? That is. So anyway, we also have to start with some housekeeping. If you have a question for Mike, whether you're a demented Cal fan or not, you want to talk about State in a bye, you want to talk about the quarterback situation, you want to talk about something you noticed in the Cal game, you can go ahead and send them to us on our YouTube page, 99.9 The Fan. Find this video. So it's the Pack Therapy Podcast. There's playlists. It's easy to find. On this video, you just comment underneath the YouTube. If you ask a question, there's a good chance Mike will answer it next week. It is a bye week next week, so get as crazy as you want. If you want some reminiscing questions, if you want bigger picture football questions about the NFL, whatever it is, we can answer them on a bye week. So send those in on our YouTube. Write it, just comment on this video. All right, now that we have that out of the way, there was some news this week, kind of post-game, and maybe we're lucky that we postponed recording this because of my voice, because now we get to address Grayson McCall as a complete football career. He retired yesterday, announced on his Instagram that he is due to an injury that he cannot overcome, which is the head injuries, the head trauma that he suffered over the last handful of seasons. He's retiring, which, I mean, I think we should just start with the generic, which is that's a brutal way to have your college career end. It's a brutal way to have your athletic career end.
Yeah, I thought, it was a really well-written post by him, and you could tell how much football means to him and will continue to mean to him. But that had to be a really tough decision to make. I'm sure he had aspirations to play in the NFL, and as a 23-year-old, it's hard to have perspective on the rest of your life. You kind of live in the moment, and it was just a brutal situation, and not the way I'm sure he wanted to see his career end. But I kind of give him credit to be able to come to that decision and not want to keep playing. That's tough to make, and to have the kind of attitude and outlook it seems that he has. Kind of kudos to him, because as a former football player, retired footballer myself, you do realize that there's more to life than just football. But when you're in the thick of it, it's hard to kind of see past the season, let alone 10 years, 20, 30, 40 years from now. So another great, although short, another great representative of NC State football, and glad that we got to have him, for the time that we did.
I think what you said is poignant, which is it's obvious he loves football. There's, in a locker room, you're going to have 100 and something guys. There are some guys that are very, they work hard, they care, but they have other interests. They if football was taken away, they would be in a different club, or they'd be into their career, they'd have a sweet internship. And then there are some guys that are they're football guys, right? And you know, if they get hurt, and I was kind of this way in that as soon as unlike you, as soon as the NFL was like, hey, not super interested, and they say that with their silence, my thought immediately went to, all right, how am I going to stay around sports somehow? Is it going to be coaching? Is it going to be media? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? I knew I wasn't going to get far away from competition. Grayson strikes me as that guy. To me, he's coaching. He's a GA somewhere by next year, and this year he's darn near a student assistant making CJ Bailey, being a sounding board for CJ Bailey as somebody that's gone through playing as an underclassman and reaching some highs and statistical highs and all of that.
Yeah, I'll be curious how he kind of approaches the next month.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, does he kind of already transition to a kind of like you said, a student assistant? Would be kind of a weird dynamic. I mean, he's the captain of the team. He still walks out for coin tosses, but is he like breaking down film and getting into it to kind of confirm if this is the path he wants to go? And, maybe he sticks around NC State next year, maybe he has options elsewhere. But, credit to him for kind of accepting it, looking after his future, and already has a plan for what he wants to do next.
And then there's the other guy in that quarterback room, which is CJ Bailey. So with all appropriate like support and concern and understanding how brutal it is for Grayson McCall, it is a next man up sport. And if Grayson played great and didn't get hurt, we might not even be talking about CJ Bailey right now. But due to the situations, we are talking about CJ Bailey, and State might have a real one here.
It does look like they have a, try not to use the word lightly, but superstar in their hands. It's, a guy that we are seeing grow before our eyes, and he looks like one of the best players on the field already. So, man, NC State fans should be excited about the future with him, and this offense just has another level of spark kind of since he's taken over and since he's grown. So I'm excited to see what he does the rest of the season, but just some of his kind of innate playmaking ability, ball placement, athleticism, he has a chance to be special.
I'm going to explain what the first handful of games from CJ Bailey have given me in terms of confidence in the player as a freshman quarterback this early. Mike and I were at like a little fall event, little Halloween get-together that he threw at his house over the weekend. It was great. It was well put together and in appropriate fashion. Had the TV right there available for us with all the games on. Once it got dark, we had the projector screen. So we both since back on and watched the game, but we got to watch it kind of as fans amongst a bunch of other State fans, which is different. And obviously you're paying attention, get down whatever it was, 13 in the fourth quarter. And Mike just walked by me at one point because we had watched State score to go down 6. And he just walked by me at one point and went, got the ball back. And I went, CJ Bailey's going to be a superstar, right? It was that feeling of when a great quarterback gets the ball, fourth quarter, down 1 score or less, and you know what you have to do, right? You have to go punch it in the end zone. There's a little bit more time. It wasn't exactly a 2-minute drill. There was like 8 minutes left. But I was already super confident that CJ Bailey was going to lead a drive that gave them the lead, and then it was up to the defense, or you might have to score again. But that confidence, that quickly in a career, he's only made a handful of starts, that shows how good he's been along the way. That my first thought wasn't, all right, let's see what he does, or like, oh no, right, it's all on him. My first thought was, CJ Bailey's about to be a superstar, and then he executed it.
That was a great part of this game. I mean, within a minute and a half, the Cal goes on a 50-yard touchdown run. You fly all the way out to the West Coast. It could get that feeling like, oh, no, here we go again. And to the entire team's credit, but specifically CJ, is they stuck with it. And then in the fourth quarter, you're down 23-10. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it last week. He was yawning on the sideline. It just seems like not only does he have the intangibles from a physical standpoint, but also the mental makeup that he, not too high, not too low, plays with great energy. The sky really is the limit with this kid, and he comes up big, throwing, 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And I think we kind of talk about at times you got to be opportunistic. Hollywood Smothers touchdown, They brought pressure. He was uncovered. As a true freshman quarterback, you could miss that hot read, and take a sack, or your eyes just might not be in the right place. Was it an incredible throw? No, but he went to the plates with the right ball, and next thing you know, Hollywood Smothers running down for what comes out to be the game-winning touchdown. So there's just all the movement in the pocket, the athleticism. Another crucial play that I go back to, I think it was in the second quarter. It was 3rd down and goal in the from the 10, and he made 2 guys kind of miss in the pocket, got the first down, and then NC State scores, I believe, the next play. So that turned from 3 points to 7 points in a game like this. That could be the difference. So little plays that you may not even notice add up in the end.
That's where I love to see his athleticism, mobility. I actually think one of the next steps is to maybe not be as confident in his running ability. You see it on the read keeps where it's, the back or him based on, usually it's a defensive end read. Sometimes it's a defensive tackle read. 50-50 balls he's keeping. And I think, when you're 6'6", 190 pounds or whatever it is, 180 pounds, give that to the running back. Let that one go. And live to play another day. But then you see a situation like you just said where the subtle athleticism that makes guys miss and picks up a gain out of the jaws of a sack. You can't, those are plays that coaches gloss over sometimes, but it's no, he just saved you. He just saved the play call there and turned a negative into a positive.
Yeah, he's, the one I'm talking about, he made a guy kind of had him wrapped up. He got off of him. The other guy had him touched, got off of him. It's almost like he's so skinny that he's almost hard to bring down. He's slippery is probably the better way to describe it versus being a big, strong guy. But yes, from the running standpoint, I think he's an efficient runner, but I'd rather see it kind of happen naturally where it's more on, quarterback scrambles than designed runs. But I will say, sometimes the skinny guys don't get banged up as much as some of the bigger guys. They
go with the hit more. It's there's physics involved. I did this on my afternoon show. I want to do it again, just because I think it illustrates something special about the player. I brought up that they got the ball. I have it right here. Down 6, 8 minutes and 37 seconds left remaining in the game. They scored in essentially 2 minutes. But this is how the drive started: incomplete. So now you get the ball, you're thinking you're going to be the hero, you go out, you throw 2 incompletions. We talked about the mental, the calm, all the smooth in the face of pressure. Boom, big completion to Justin Joly, who's a stud, by the way. We'll talk about it. This was the play calling on that drive from Robert Anae. It was a 7-play touchdown drive. You needed it to take the lead. Here's Robert Anae's play calling: pass, 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 pass. We've talked about the struggles of the run game. With the game on the line, the offensive coordinator said, we've got a dude, let's put it on his shoulders. They did that. They take the lead. They end up winning the game, obviously. Here are C.J. Bailey's QBRs for the last 4 games, starting with the NIU game, which is kind of the, he's settled in a little bit, knows what to expect. His QBRs, which is an ESPN stat designed to fully encapsulate a quarterback's performance. It takes into account running. It takes into account down and distance, success rate, all of that. NIU's QBR was 33.9. Wake Forest, 50.8. Syracuse, 63.1. Cal, 77.4. He's kind of figuring it out in real time and getting better each week, getting more confident. Pro Football Focus, I have all these stats, so I'm just going to run them all through. Pro Football Focus gave him 4 what they call big-time throws in the Cal game. That's more than he had in every game combined previous to. He's starting to trust his ability a little bit more. He's starting to take a little bit more shots, especially shots downfield. His advanced analytics are improving. State might have a real one, and what I mean by that is a guy you can really build around if you can get him to stay.
Yeah, and just not making the comparison just because, but it's more – I don't know any other true freshman quarterback playing in the country besides Dylan Raiola at Nebraska. Dylan Raiola, 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and they're talk about him like he's locked to be the first pick of the draft few years. CJ Bailey, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I mean, you could – and Raiola has played a few more games than CJ. You could argue that he's the best freshman quarterback in the country right
True
now.
Freshman, yeah, best true freshman quarterback in the entire country. So we'll have to talk about the implications of that as a program. Elsewhere in the offense, if you total them up, and I hate how college includes sacks and running totals, rushing totals. But if you total it all up, State had less than 1 yards per carry running the football. It was 30 carries for 29 yards. That's not great. But if you take out everything the quarterback did, right, because you don't know what's a run, what if you just eliminate C.J. Bailey from that, 2.64 yards per carry, which is, I mean, it's better, but not much. Running game a lost cause? Like, is it where you punt it and just say, I'd rather have the pass game get 3 shots at it on first, second, and third down than wasting one with a 2-yard run?
You know, I don't think you completely get away from it, but I think you go to a more definitely heavy favorite pass game. You look at the last 2 games versus Cal, Syracuse, they started throwing the ball more, and it's the best offenses looked all year. So stick to that formula. You mentioned, you know, the game-winning drive essentially was 7 straight passes. Yeah. So I think this is a pass-first offense. You sprinkle in the run. And I will say Hollywood Smothers is looking good, and he's showing some playmaking ability.
Seems like his biggest plays come catching the ball, though.
Yeah, it does. But, you know, you could find ways to get him the ball in space, I'm sure, in the run game, whether it's tosses or what have you. But I think this, based on Casey, Jolie, Grimes, Rogers, let's spread the ball out.
You brought up Grimes. Wesley Grimes' catch on the sideline was kind of bananas. The body control, the knowing where he is. I think is he the forgotten guy on offense? Because I look at the stats, and I have him here. Jolie, 4 catches. Smothers, 6. Concepcion, 4. Dakari Collins, 4. Noah Rogers, 4. Grimes, 1. And that was a great catch. Like, is it just there's one ball and somebody's not going to make it and he's the odd man out?
I think it is. But that's, again, the strength of this offense is there's multiple players on the outside that can make plays. And I do think Wesley Grimes is a great player, but I think Justin Jolie might be the most effective playmaker that they have. I mean, Casey's obviously had somewhat of an up and down year, but Jolie's been consistent. He's great at contested catches. He's great in traffic. When it's across the middle, he may get hit by a safety. Doesn't seem to faze him. And CJ just has a great feel for putting it up in kind of his radius, and he comes down with all of them. So I've been really impressed with not only Wesley Grimes, but Justin Jolie as well.
And that might be the best argument, taking away the struggles of the run game. You got somebody like Wesley Grimes, and he's getting 1 catch. You have to throw more because that guy deserves more catches. Like, I mean, we're both quarterbacks. Somebody makes that catch for you, you're finding them a way to get the ball again because you want to reward that kind of effort. You make me right, I'll keep giving you the chance.
And I definitely think you need a run game. I think it helps the entire team, offense and defense, and it also kind of talks about, you know, it's like a
breather play.
Yeah,
yeah.
But
that's what that's not my word. That's Peyton Manning uses that on the Manning cast.
2 yards a carry, and you're only getting Wesley Grimes the ball once a game. Like. It doesn't seem like let's, you know, keep beating our head and trying to force running the ball. Let's get the ball to all of our playmakers that are more effective than 2 yards a carry.
This is the Pack Therapy Podcast. We'll take a break. When we come back, we have questions from listeners for Mike, and there's a couple doozies in here. I'm looking forward to them. Coming up next. Pack Therapy, the podcast. Subscribe, like everywhere you can find podcasts, including on YouTube, 99.9 The Fan on YouTube. Every single week, we ask for questions for Mike, and then we kind of use this second half of the show to answer the questions that are burning out there in Pack Nation. We'll start with this one just because we were just talking about him before the break. This comes from @IronJoe with a couple of underscores. I don't know, 3 or 4 underscores there. Is Justin Jolie a player that might stay in college because of NIL but would have left for the NFL if he played 10 years ago? And then there's a gap, and it says, give me some hope that we have more than 4 or 5 more games with Justin in Raleigh.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think I'm sure we'll get to more of the bye week. That's what I'm somewhat concerned during this bye week is all these guys are going home, and now their mind's already on next year, and they're discussing with their family.
Maybe a high school coach who's heard from a coach somewhere or heard from a scout.
And maybe those discussions are ongoing right now. And that's what part of the problem, a lot of problems with the portal. I don't love how these guys make decisions immediately after the season. You know, in NFL, free agency doesn't happen until mid-March. So there's kind of a time in between where these guys right now, a lot of their minds are probably already on next year. And that's not good for this team. It's not good for college football in general. So Joe Lee looks to me like a potential NFL guy, but with the amount of money being thrown around, he may opt to stay, and it may not be at NC State because there might be other schools that are offering more money.
I'm sure little birdies are getting to everybody who might like. It used to be, and I know this because I played at Delaware, which was FCS at the time, and you didn't have to sit out if you were transferring from an FBS program. So our coaches, and I don't think anyone from the staff is still at Delaware, and I don't know, statute of limitations. They knew how to get to a guy. Like they knew a lot of times it was a high school coach, or if there was a teammate or somebody that played against them on our team, that just, hey, if you're disgruntled, we'd have that conversation. And we ended up with a herd of kids from the University of Maryland. We had like 7, 8 of them. And it was because one guy came and liked it, and then you could use that player to go talk to them all. Like that, those conversations are happening. You really need a guy dedicated to your school because now essentially everywhere is like the FCS. You can transfer without sitting out. So those conversations are happening. And bye weeks, like you said, going home, there's a lot of people. What I will say is the scouts that come to games, they go into the media booth. So, like, we're there covering the game. The scouts are there, and they all wear the same dry fit polo with the little logo on their chest. There were quite a bit of them there recently, and you can kind of see who they're poking their heads around pregame. They're down on the field. Justin Joly has the attention of the NFL.
He should. I mean, the way he's playing, what he did at UConn, I'm sure he was on the radar, and the way he's playing this year, he fits the mold of what the NFL is looking for right now at the tight end position. So I would not be surprised to see him playing on Sundays.
So this is very similar. And I picked these questions ahead of time trying to get a good mix. But it comes from David on YouTube. First of all, let's just toot your horn a little bit. I think Mike Glennon is the most underrated quarterback the Pack has ever had. I enjoy and value his comments as a quarterback and his experience at every level. That being said, as a former player that had to do it for 2 years, what do you think it's going to take to keep C.J. Bailey committed to State long enough to benefit from his talent and abilities?
It's just a different era now than when I was in school. I mean, my first thought is money talks. Mm-hmm. And, you know, these players get opportunities. You hear some of these numbers, whether they're true or not, but the way he's playing, he could potentially be making life-changing money at certain schools. So what's his kind of priorities? Mm-hmm. Is it money? Is it loyalty? Is it developing with, Kurt Roper, the quarterback coach? I don't have the answers for that. I just know it's a lot more challenging now to keep a guy than it was when I was here, because what you just talked about, if you had a good player, he was staying, because otherwise he would have to sit out a year and transfer. Now he doesn't have to sit out, and chances are he can go make more money elsewhere. So it's we'll see. I would be lying if I would say I wasn't concerned about that one.
I floated this out there on the afternoon show. It sounds ridiculous, and old timers are going to absolutely hate what I say right now. Go full Aaron Rodgers. Find out who his buddies are. Like if there's he played at a powerhouse high school in Florida. Find out somebody on that team that's his best friend that doesn't have a ton of offers right now. Like, use that. If you need to get Alan Lazard in order to get Aaron Rodgers, you get Alan Lazard and give him $10 million a year to get Aaron Rodgers. It's not just, hey, we can be the best football developers for you like it used to be, which I don't necessarily like, but get creative, right? It was Russell Wilson who wanted in Seattle, right? He wanted a seat at the table. He wanted influence. I'm not saying you give him like a full board seat, but invite him into the room every now and then and let him have a little bit of impact.
Yeah, this is all his personal preference. For me, the main reason why I chose NC State is because I thought they gave me the best chance to develop into an NFL quarterback, where now I think it's more about making money. And I'm sure, I think that should be a pitch to NC State. Look how good you did here. We can continue to develop, and maybe you won't make as much money now as you would at some of these other SEC schools. But, in the future, if we keep developing you, you'll make a bunch of money in the NFL, and this NIL money really won't matter. But that's a tough pitch, if it's true that some of these schools are offering millions of dollars, that's tough to turn down.
I always say when it comes to this, it's a legendary story. Who knows if it's actually true or not? But it's when LeBron was choosing his shoe company, right? He had the legendary, it was like $90 million from Nike before he ever played in the NBA. The story is that Reebok invited him and his mom in, and there was no posters of LeBron on the wall. It was like a conference room, nothing special, and they offered him more money than any other of the other shoe companies, and then slid a check for $10 million that he could cash right then across the table, and said, like, here you go. It's yours. You sign on the dotted line. You walk out of here. You walk to your bank. This is a active, live $10 million check. And he walked out and didn't sign on it and said, I have these other meetings. I want to go. Went to Nike, and Nike, again, the legend is, I don't know if it's all true, offered less money, but came with a pitch of, this is how we're going to build your brand. This is the shoe that we see. This is how it works. They walked into, I think it was the Mia Hamm building, but they had remade it to the LeBron James building, and it showed, like, it valued. And obviously it worked out for LeBron. Like, I like when players, I'm not saying go to the bargain basement, right? State's going to have to make some money, but look at the full picture. Don't just look at the $10 million check in your hand. Look at what's going to help you over the next 40 years. And obviously it worked out for LeBron, and it's not apples to apples, but you kind of get the same vibe there. Next question from @7inentertainment509. Do you think the 3-3-5 defense, which is the style of defense Tony Gibson, the defensive coordinator, runs, negatively affects the offensive line play? I get that scout teams can simulate opponents' four-man fronts, but it isn't the same if you're not practicing against good players in that simulated defense. There's the question to you, Mike. Is the offensive line, obviously it's this year it's going to be highlighted because the running game isn't working, but are they at a disadvantage because when you go ones versus ones in camp and ones versus ones in practice, your ones are running a style of defense that they don't see that often in regular play?
That's a great question. And I've never thought of it that way, that maybe that is affecting the run game, but there could be some truth to that. I handful of times in my NFL career, our defense was a 3-4 based defense. And I remember we would have –
and real quickly, everybody, that just means 3 down linemen, like 3 true defensive linemen. 3-4 would be 4 linebackers. 3-3-5 is 3 down linemen, 3 linebackers, 5 in the secondary. You kind of get an extra safety on the field.
But anyway, in training camp, I remember there used to be some designated periods where we would do good on good, which is one-on-one, so it's not just scout team guys, where the defense would give 4 down fronts, and – that's all they would face for that period because it was more of an offensive drill than it was for the defense. It was, during the regular season, there are teams in the NFL that run 3-4. Probably the majority of them, though, are 4-3. So we need our good players, our starter offensive line to be going against 4 down fronts because that's mainly what we're going to be seeing come the regular season. So I don't know if they sprinkle in some of those periods during training camp where they're playing more 4 down, like 4-3 base defenses, but that is an interesting point to kind of think about. That
I would challenge you to think the other way also. How much of excuse me, how much does the defense benefit, as I battle my voice, how much does the defense benefit because the offenses that you're playing against very rarely see good, high level 3 down looks because they're running 4-3s with theirs. So they're getting 1 week of scout team looking at the 3-3-5. So if you have Tony Gibson or you bring in a defensive coordinator that goes to a more traditional front, well, then every team is faced your traditional front. Their offense has faced it all year, and they know how to attack it rather than the change-up that you get with your defense.
No, I think that's a fair point, and this is a more drastic version of that. But when Paul Johnson was at Georgia Tech and they ran the kind of Navy offense, the wing T, teams weren't ready for it because they never practiced against it. We did do that as well at NC State with Tom O'Brien. Was during training camp, a couple times a week, we would do a scout team where they do a wing T to get the defense ready for it. So, yeah, I think you're right. It probably does help the defense, and it probably does hurt the offensive line when it comes to the run game and also blitz pickups because it's just they can send blitzes differently than a normal 4-3 team would.
This one, it's not state related, but they sent it to you, so I'm going to pass it along. At JC56567, Who would Mike Glennon draft if he was the Panthers GM and had the number 1 overall pick they said wanted a quarterback this year?
And wanted a quarterback, man. It's still
and
a little early.
I'll just throw this out there. Me and Mike are in a whole bunch of fantasy leagues together, so I'm very interested to see who he likes and who he values. I'm using this as
I think,
a Trojan horse to get info.
I need to see more Cam Ward, but I do, and it's kind of hard for me to say, I do kind of like Shedeur Sanders. He has a knack for completing the ball and
hunting completions, get in your playmakers' hands. That's what you've said it since high school about playing the position.
Kind of the way Tom Brady played. I'm not saying he's Tom Brady, but the really great ones, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, they've found a way to find completions. And it sometimes looks boring. It's not exciting. But I kind of see that in Shedeur's game. Cam Ward, he seems a little bit more he's kind of this kind of new era of NFL quarterbacks. You think of Josh Allen and Mahomes. They're kind of off-platform. His arm angles change, but he makes some big-time throws. I just haven't seen enough of him yet to make me a true believer. Going into the season, I was high on Carson Beck at Georgia. He's kind of been a little shaky this year, looks like turning the ball over, missing some throws. I do think he's got his just arm talent. He's got really good arm talent, but right now he isn't playing at a high level.
I'll throw one sleeper in there. I've floated him out there a few times, and I was just listening to a podcast with Todd McShay, and he's kind of all over it also. Nussmeier from LSU. He's sneaky in a lot of NFL. I think he's going to end up being a riser.
He's got I don't know if he'll be the first pick of the draft, but I do like his game. He's got another guy that has some real arm strength, and his dad is the quarterback coach for.
See, I didn't even know this.
He's an NFL. I don't know who's with. He used to be with the Cowboys for a while. Now he might be with the Eagles.
Doug Nussmeier played college football at Idaho, and now he's in coaching. He played for the Saints. We can get to the
anyway. He's with someone right now, so obviously he's got a good pedigree of understanding the game, coaches kids.
He's the Eagles quarterback coach.
Yeah, so that
maybe not the best year to be the Eagles quarterback coach. Just
a sharp guy that understands football well. So I think he could be a guy that rises the draft boards. Right. I don't know if he'll be the number 1 pick, though.
Yeah, number 1. I don't know if any quarterback's worthy of the number 1 this year. That's Mike Glennon. This is the Pack Therapy Pod. Leave your questions for him. Next week, we'll hit a whole bunch of bye week stuff. What does this team need to do on the bye? How do they get ready for the stretch run? So any questions about buys or anything else, leave them in our YouTube comments. Until next week, hopefully I sound better next week. See you.